All right, welcome. It's been a while, at least a few weeks, maybe a month since I've recorded. Just things, life's busy, and, and we're right on the edge of the holiday seasons when this recording is being done. So I may not follow up quickly unless I get an opportunity. Um, but it is that time of year. I always like to, for big battles during their time of year, try and get into them. And in this case, we are in the Battle of the Bulge period. I'm a late starter here. We're 4 days after the 16th. And I had initially picked out as my Ardennes game, or my Battle of the Bulge game, SCS Ardennes II from Multiman Publishing. But before I could get into it, I saw somebody else, I think Hex to Hex on YouTube is recording it. So I decided to shift. One of my choices had been, 1944 Battle of the Bulge by Worthington Games, obviously a smaller scale. I mean, a smaller game than, SCS. I'm more traditional grog, since way back in the beginning, Hex Encounter, heavy duty. Normally this game would be a little bit too higher level, not as much detail as I personally prefer, but, I've read the reviews, read the rules, and it looks like it's got good reviews and it's got an interesting mechanism, and it was on my list. Problem was I couldn't find a VASSAL mod on the Worthington website, or I own the game, but I couldn't find a VASSAL mod on the Worthington site or the main VASSAL site. But then on a whim, I searched more broader, and I found out, a place I don't normally go, Limey Yankee Games, Limey, whatever they're called, Limey Yank Games. That's a cool website. Limey Yank Games. There we go. They're based out of the UK. And they also house Cyberboard, Vassal, and Sun Tzu modules. And lo and behold, they had a module for Battle of the Bulge, 1944 Battle of the Bulge from Worthington Games. So it's pretty much game on. I've already got the rules over here. I've done my initial review. They're not long. I think they're about 7 pages. And I got them over here for a quick review here, but here's the initial setup too. And it is using a number of unique systems, not traditional hex and counter, the traditional movement, combat, odds, etc. We're going to see slightly different. It's activation, resource points used for many things. So it'll be interesting to see the interplay. This isn't your typical, basic hex and counter war game. And just starting the rules here, right here, it does cover pretty much the front all the way to the Muse, I think. Yeah, here it is. Namor, Liege. Yeah. Kind of the key places. Not a massive map, actually, either. A lot of helpful information is already on the map here, too. Terrain type, etc. Charts for RPs. So just kind of skimming the rules here. I've been through it once, as you can tell by the orange colored highlighting. Allied player owns all cities at the beginning, and the German goal is to take these cities. I think they get 1 victory point for most, but certain ones they can get 2, and it's all about building up those victory points, and however many victory points that means, whether they win, draw, or lose, compared, I guess, to the historical. And they do, starting out here, controls all cities. Control changes as they pass through. Combat effects of terrain are based on location of the defending unit. Combat effects are cumulative. That's interesting. And what it is number of dice you roll. And then they have special indicators on this. Like here I got an armor hit. Here I got an infantry hit. Here I got no hits. Armor, infantry. Well, ooh, that's a big one right there. 3 infantry step hits. So it's all about how many dice you roll and whether you score any hits. And again, these shifts are cumulative then. We see the effects listed. But movement is not cumulative. I think they say, yeah, it's the highest cost to enter. And then we look at the units here. And yeah, first pass I'd look and I'd say attack factor, defense factor, and movement factor. Well, the only thing that's true there is movement factor is the last number. This is kind of attack factor. It's the number of dice they get to roll to try and get a hit. This is how many steps it has. So this unit actually has 4 steps. It can take up to 4 hits. So we're going to get more than just flipping over for some units. We're going to have them replaced by a smaller unit, and they list that here. You see the whole progression. And this is for the 101st Screaming Eagles. And you notice they cycle through. Each time, number of dice stays the same, movement stays the same, but again, they have less and less steps. And once they take a hit after 1, they're removed from play. And that's what we see here. Like this unit only has 1 step. This has 1. This is actually where the strong U.S. units are. Let's see. And that's how many combat hits. Movement points. Symbol is the unit type. And we just saw this on the map breaking down. Allied are green. Also, there's going to be artillery support and I think leaders, but they're assigned to specific armies on each side. Patton on the 3rd Army and Manteuffel, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think it's the 5th Panzer Army, we'll see. So units not in those armies can't benefit from their assistance. And artillery units are divided up by army, and only units in that army can call for artillery. Here we go. Gold center squares are 5th Panzer. Gray are 6th Panzer. And light red are 7th Army. The shoulder units here. Volksgrenadier, I think, although it looks like they do have a 5th Fallschirmjäger. But the main attack is coming out of here with, you have to memorize the color. No, 6th Panzer Army. It's on the counter. Excellent. 5th Panzer Army, 6th Panzer Army. That's the main striking force. These guys are they're protecting the flank from U.S. units coming across here. And then we show the types of units. Infantry units, if you get an infantry symbol, they're hit. Armor units are these. You got to roll an armor to hit. There is one thing, if you get an armor hit but there's no armor units, then an infantry unit gets a hit. But it doesn't work the other way. You got to roll an actual armor hit to hurt an armor unit. Artillery units kept off board. You can see they're assigned by what army they're in, so I can only assist units in that army. Right now, what's on the board for the Allies? Well, 8 Corps can potentially get support from 3rd Army. So that was a kind of different thing there. 3 German artillery units available turns 1 to 3. The beginning, they add +1 attack dice, +1 die. Target has to be no further than 5 hexes from the Siegfried line. That kind of represents that the artillery, they say, were horse-drawn, so they never could keep up with the advance. So basically, it's during the whole game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just short of Bastogne. 1, 2, 3. Wow. So they can't use artillery past that, and only on the first 3 turns. American artillery +1. 3rd Army can also support 8 Corps. Air units, they're a little more powerful. They add 2 combat dice, but they're affected by weather. Only 1 air unit may be added to a combat, but we can combine an artillery, an air, and potentially a general unit to get a lot of shifts. 1, 2, 3, 4 shifts. 4 dice. 4 dice. That's the key. Only 1 air unit said, once air units are used, you can't use them until the next. And the turns indicated on the turn record track, I'll look that up later, but, here it is. 1 air, 1 air, and then no air, no air, no air. And then it gets ugly. 3 air, 3 air, 3 air. That's when the weather cleared. So that handles that. And then we have our leaders, Manteuffel and Patton, kept off board, stacked with 1 supplied unit of their army, 5th Panzer for Manteuffel, 3rd, and 8 Corps for Patton. And they do allow them 1 more MP movement. There it is, +1 MP, and +1 die. So like I said, 3rd Army attacking with air support and artillery. 1, 2, 3, 4 extra dice. So that could be powerful. Units are allowed to both attack and move in any order they want. So you could attack first, move later. You could attack first, then somebody else moves through the hole you did, and they attack another unit, and now the original unit can move through that. So that's kind of where the strategy is, sequencing and activating units. Which units to attack first? Which units to activate first? Do they attack? Do they move? Etc. German control markers. Yeah, you can use that, keep track of. They were the last ones passed through. Both players get, here's a key thing of the game. I think they're called resource points. Yeah, everybody, this is how to do the setup, and with the VASSAL mod, I've already got it here. 20 RP for the Germans at the start, 6 for the Allies. Not much I can do here. And then we'll see in a later page how you can burn resource points. And it's pretty straightforward. Place reinforcements and refit units. I can use resource points for refitting units. Once they're destroyed, they're destroyed. You can't bring back, we'll see that, can't bring back eliminated units, but hence you probably want to pull them off the line and refit them before they get eliminated forever. So they do that, reinforcements, refit, and then the German player activates units for movement and combat. I think until they run out of RPs. RPs can't be carried over from turn to turn, so you got to burn them all. That makes life a little easier. Allies do the same thing. Reinforcements, refit, and then check supply, and then movement, etc. Okay. And here it is. Here's the key, resource points. They pretty much drive the game. At the start of each turn, they receive resource points. It's kind of listed here. 8, 12, 12. You see the Allies go up all the way to 18. And the Germans start high, 20, 20, and then they start coming down. Okay. Resource points and we can use them to refit units. We can also use them to activate units, and we see that in the chart. Once a player has spent all his RPs or wants to perform no other activations, their turn is done. Can't spend more RPs than they receive in a turn, and RPs are not saved, so use it or lose it. Okay. Refit an armor is 2. Refit an infantry is 1. Activate 1 unit for movement is 1. And then we have combat. If it's all units of the same army or corps, 1 RP per hex attack. But if you're mixing and matching, so you want to kind of keep that integrity of armies, it's 2 RPs per attack. Okay. And again, I think 8th Corps is part of 3rd Army. They talk about where the reinforcements come, and actually there is no stacking in the game. Except for here, when the reinforcements come in, they can be stacked at the entry hex, but they have to move so that they're down to nobody's, stacked at the end of that. Units can temporarily overstack when entering the game, but the hex can only have 1 unit by the end of the turn. And it costs 1 RP to move each unit from the hex. Makes sense. Activate a unit to move 1 RP. You can delay reinforcements. Didn't highlight that. If all entry hexes are blocked, they can go vacant hex to the west. Okay. The active player may refit now in supply units on the board, not at full strength. 1 RP for an infantry, 2 RP for an armor. Let's see. And you can only do 1 at a time. So I can, if it's down 3 steps, it'll take 3 turns to rebuild it to full strength. The only exception is, of course, our Allied airborne units, which can do everything while supposedly out of supply. Because they may be trapped in bastion or surrounded, and as the general or somebody quoted, we're paratroopers, we're always surrounded. So they are the exception. That makes them tough, too. I can refit them, you can refit them out of supply. So you may knock them back a few, and then immediately they can be refit if there's enough RPs. And that would probably be a priority if you get in a situation like holding Bastion. Checks activating units for movement and combat. Check supply of an activating unit at the time of activation. And then again, like we said, you can move once and attack once. You got a marker. And then once you've done your move and attack, you're done for that turn. And common sense here, if I activate it to move, I can't activate it again to move. I can only activate it to fire. If the unit is in supply, then each RP allows one unit to move to its full movement allowance. If the unit is out of supply, allows it to move -1 MP, though, -3 for armor. So your movement is reduced. You're also going to see you lose combat dice. And 1 RP allows all adjacent units of the same Army Corps to attack 1 hex with a defender located in it. Okay. 8 Corps is considered part of 3rd Army. British 30 Corps is considered a separate army. American airborne units, again, not penalized for being out of supply for movement either. No hex may have more than 1 unit, except for entering reinforcements. You can move through, but you can't stop. They give you different types of road movement here. Tactical road movement, anytime a unit moves from road to road. Costs 1/2 MP for armor, 1 MP for infantry. But Allied infantry and airborne units can take advantage of trucks, motorization, and I think as long as they don't move through, start in, or move next to an enemy ZOC, you can get it down to 1/3. They can move up to 12 hexes. Okay. You can pass through a friendly occupied road hex. However, the MP cost is increased by 1. There you go. So you kind of get a little bit of that traffic jam there. I wonder if all of that is on out of supply effects. Nice. Resource point charts. Nice. Yeah, 1/3 for Allied infantry motorized. Tactical move 1 MP for infantry, 1/2 for armor. They don't mention if there's already a unit in there. Oh, friendly occupied road. There it is. I think it should be +1 MP. I'll have to think about that. Zone of control, all 6 hexes around it. And actually, I think, yeah, enemy ZOC, 3 MP. Costs 3 MP movement points to enter an enemy ZOC. And I think you can go ZOC to ZOC if you get enough movement points. Yep. Okay. Bridge. Those bridges are big. Allied ZOCs interdicted. So if there's a zone of control on a bridge, the Germans can't move through it, I think. Oh, German units negate Allied ZOC when determining if a bridge is interdicted. Okay. Yeah, so a German unit could do that, but if they're on the other side of the bridge, you can't move into the hex. Guess you can attack across a bridge. No combat effect. Allied ZOC interdicts for movement. Okay. How do you do combat? Never required to attack, so combat's not mandatory. Got to be adjacent to the enemy unit in their ZOC, and then all the units adjacent don't have to attack. And ideally, they're in the same army, so you only spend 1 RP. The attacker announces, and if artillery, air support, and/or leader will be added. German player may add artillery and/or a leader to an attack on a hex. The Allied player may add artillery, 1 air, or a leader to an attack on a hex, or may add his artillery and/or 1 air to a defending unit. So the Allies are the only ones who can use that for defense. Use once per turn, supply, and there's a penalty is determined at the moment of combat, just like at the turn of movement. Combat simultaneous, they roll these snazzy die, and then it determines how many hits each have to expend. Infantry or armor, and any armor symbols rolled are always applied to armor units. If none are present, it goes to infantry, and you do this simultaneously. So it's all about reduction. There's no, like, retreat here. Yeah. And they give good examples here, mainly because it's 1 unit or a group of units at a time. Then they'd all be marked with fired. Like the first turn, I'd have to look at the river rules, and maybe these guys will focus on attacking him. And it would be 6 dice to 1. Okay. So that's the first one here. That's the attacker. Attacking and support. Good. How do you get the supply? Oh, here we go. During combat, each time a unit receives a hit, it should be flipped to replace the next lower SP. When a unit is reduced below 1 SP, it's gone. They got some optional rules trickled in here. I'm kind of skipping those for now. And to be in supply, you got to trace 3 connected hexes, not an enemy Zoc, from the unit to a supplied road. I think that goes off the board. And they do mention where they are. To the eastern board, 5 through 7 for the German player. So, yeah, here's 5, 6, 7. So they got to be within 3 hexes of a road, which then can trace to the supply source. And yes, enemy Zoc blocks, but friendly units negate Zoc, enemy Zoc. Okay. Yeah, when it's activated, it's checked for supply, and if out of supply, well, -1 MP for infantry, 3 MP for armor, and if you attack or defend, -1 die for infantry, -2 for armor. Ooh, don't let armor get out of supply, except for American Airborne Infantry, which just love being out of supply surrounded. And there's a nice supply effects chart. And it's right here, too. Cool. 30 Corps may only move, well, on one side of the Meuse. Meuse, however you pronounce it, the French. And that's accurate. They weren't supposed to cross, but it stopped the Germans. American Airborne Infantry Regiment are elite units. These units do not suffer ill effects in movement or combat when out of supply, and may refit. So there really is no supply for them. You could have turned it around and said they're always in supply, I guess. You have to think about that. Kampfgruppe der Heute, whatever. They can do a paradrop. Turn 2, make any vacant hex within 5 of the Siegfried. Can be a drop hex, then they roll to C. 6 is a successful drop. 2 to 5 is scatter drop. And if you roll a 1, the unit's eliminated. So the odds are you're probably going to scatter, but you run the risk of also being eliminated. And to scatter, you roll a second die, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around the unit. And I think it just goes 1 hex. Scatter, it doesn't roll about distance. Panzer Brigade 150 driving the Shermans. Josias. Okay, the unit may attempt to infiltrate enemy Zocs, cross bridges, and enemy Zoc. Or enemy Zoc. 4, 5, or 6 successful. 1, 2, or 3 it's not. 50-50 to infiltrate Zocs. Yeah, and then they go into it in more detail. First SS was over reinforced, so it has 6 strength points. All right, there's sudden death victory. Otherwise, it's the points. And German sudden death, exit an armored division, 2 or more steps off the board at supply hex. These are north or west. These are allied, northwest of the Meuse. Must be in supply, though. Got to have a line of supply. I pull that off. An armored division with 2 or more steps off the board with a supply line. German victory. Don't know how far that division would go in real life, or if so. Anyway, German player loses victory points, and I'm going to kind of cut this at this point. What am I at? 23 minutes. So the next recording we'll go ahead and start this game here. But here's the end of game victory conditions, and it's all about +2 VP. They're marked on the board. Bastogne +2. Control of any other in supply town +1. And if the Allies get these starting hexes, the Germans lose it. And it's all about victory point totals. Want to get 14 or more. They get 13, it's draw. 12 or less, it's an Allied victory. Okay. And then we got this. This is on the board. And then we got the optional rules, which we may look at. Depends on how fast this plays. Alternate units, variable objectives. Yeah, that's the cards, and you can do a different type of offensive. Potentially we'll look at that. And then good examples of play at the end. I will give them that. Good examples of play. So hopefully I'm going to get a time to sit down and maybe do a few turns each recording. And this will be my Battle of the Bulge game for this year. I may farm out to other ones. Maybe I'll do a combat mission, Final Blitzkrieg. That's a video game. If you're familiar with the combat missions, I'm tempted to do that. And I don't know if I'll do a Wargame Design Studio. Maybe I'll probably do a Squad Battles level, Battle of the Bulge battle, instead of the whole Battle of the Bulge. But anyway, with that said, I'm going to end the recording here. I'm going to get this uploaded for Christmas. See if I can squeeze in a few more over the holiday break. but this looks like a good, doable game. Very manageable, and we'll see how fast we get through it. So thanks for listening, and if you're listening to this before the holidays, have a happy holiday, and we'll see you at the next recording. Thanks.